Hello again there, Matthew. It's Dr. Dave once more from Shrink Wrap Radio talking about my latest podcast episode, which is number 428, in which I interview noted sex therapist Dr. Marty Klein, who's been a sex therapist and a marriage and family counselor in California for 31 years or more. And he also does forensic work. He told me about having recently worked on a case in South Africa where he served as an expert witness, and he warned me off of ever being an expert witness because he says that the prosecution gives you a really hard time when you're in that witness chair. So I don't think there's any chance that I'm very likely to take that on anytime soon. Well, we focused on many things. One of the things that we focused on was the changes that he's seen over the course of his 30-plus year career as a sex therapist. And we also honed in on a magazine article that appeared recently in the Atlantic Monthly, in which a journalist, not a psychologist, but a very credible journalist, looked into the practice of sexting. That's sexting, sexting among teenagers in a community in Virginia. And one of the points that she made was that although her research was restricted to Virginia, she thinks that pretty much the same phenomenon is going on all over the country. So one of the surprising things to me was how prevalent it was in her sample, that nearly all the high school girls who had a smartphone had engaged in sexting to some degree. Another interesting point that emerged from that article and that I discussed with my interviewee, Marty Klein, was that the upset comes, the real danger is the way that adults react to sexting when they find out about it, whether that be parents or school authorities or police or prosecutors. And so then there can be a whole lot of drama around that, whereas if it hadn't hit that radar, it would have just been sort of a more or less normal expression of adolescent sexuality with the added benefit of technology. Even so, I found it a little disturbing as a grandparent to just see just how prevalent it is. And it's probably not so bad when it's in the context of a teen, a loving, let's say, teen relationship. But there are cases where young men are just collecting massive amounts of photos from girls, that they put a lot of pressure on girls to send them a naked text or sext, and so that they can then show their collection to their buddies, and it's for bragging rights. But the interesting thing is that for these young men, it's not about sexual arousal. They say that they can get much more aroused by going to a porn site and seeing much prettier and more action-oriented material there. So I won't go on and on about this, but hey, if you're interested in sexuality at all and want to know what's going on today, I think you'll be interested in this podcast, number 428, a report from the sexual frontier with sex therapist Marty Klein. So this is Dr. Dave saying back to you, Matthew.